Yeah, this is your 9 o'clock news with Discovery Planet. Yeah, I am Mr. Walter Foxtrot. I'll tell you the truth, it's the breaking news hotspot. You can find us on channel 10.5. Our noses stay small cause we never tell a lie. Out in the field we have Pedro Sanchez reporting the real, better hear what this man says. John Smith II got that BBC. We the best newscast you guys will ever see. We the best newscast you guys will ever see. We the best newscast you guys will ever see. We the best newscast you guys will ever see. Do not try to be better, you will never be. Hello, and welcome to our show. We are reporting to you on October 8th, 2011. Now, you may not realize this, but there are many news stations out there that try to appeal to you, whether it be emotionally or through logical reasoning and things of that sort. And news stations even try to prove that they're legitimate, sometimes through not legitimate ways. Sometimes they have bias, and sometimes they have rhetorical fallacies that you may not even consider until this video. Today we are going to delve into how a variety of news channels dealt with covering the London riots of opportunity. Now, to start us off, we're going to look at how CNN dealt with covering the London riots. The CNN reporters do a fairly good job at eliciting feelings from the audience, whether it be fear, anger, or sadness. For example, both Sepulvado and Schubert succeed in appealing to the audience's emotions when the two reporters find real individuals involved or hurt by the riots. The audience can't help but feel bad when they hear about someone's brother being beaten by the police. Almost every article tries to get down to the logical reasoning behind the riots. Most of the articles believe that the riots were logical and rational, but they went too far. One article by Eric Ellis explores the idea that David Cameron, Prime Minister of Great Britain, is actually beginning to look a lot like none other than Hosni Mubarak. As for ethos, most reporters attempt to prove that they are fit for the job through stating how they know the individuals that they interviewed or how they have worked in the field for many years. However, one reporter, Schubert, actually refrains from trying to prove her worth to the audience. She simply states it how it is and avoids making herself look good. The only evident media bias in the reports is bandwagoning on mainstream ideas and interviewing only people of a certain class, to be specific, the lower class. Rhetorical fallacies range from red herring to bandwagoning to overgeneralization. It really just depends on the reporter. And now, as a special guest, we have Eric Ellis from CNN to discuss his views on David Cameron. Eric, what's the problem with what David Cameron did to the social media?
You see, Walter, the problem emerges from the fact that Mr. Cameron is heading down a dangerous path. While he was the first leaders to visit Egypt during the midst of their turmoil and support their revolution, he now has the audacity to call for limiting the social media in his own riots. Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing. He's trying to control his people, and just as the Egyptian people acted out, the British community needed to take a stand. If he isn't careful, uncontrollable riots could break out in the future, and he could lose his job forever.
That is fabulously interesting. And what approach do you think he should have taken instead?
Well, it would have been smarter to approach the social media in a different way. Policing it, for example. It would be better than just trying to take it away altogether.
Wow, that is just exhilarating. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And now we go to our international correspondent, Pedro Sanchez, with the analysis of Al Jazeera News.
Todas las citas dicen la misma cosa. Siempre es toda la audiencia.
No, Pedro. En inglés, por favor.
Sorry. The different news pieces from Al Jazeera basically say the same messages. They all condemned the violence of the British riots and voice the frustrations of the different groups of people. The news pieces did differ quite a bit on the angle of their analysis, some attacking the issue from a more practical standpoint, and others really put on the emotions. There were two main approaches to the ethos appeal. You either had the emotional first-person perspective, or you had the serious British woman with the heavy accent. In Panic on the Streets of London, the writer is in her home, witnessing the riots firsthand. In contrast, the Cameron vows action to halt London riots and the video London Cleans Up After the Third Night of Violence both have reporters and writers that seem more distant from the pains of the people. They are sitting behind their desks and more focused on the political side of things. The appeal to logos was in general quite limited. Most of the sources were essentially just commentary focused on the chaos and anger, not statistical reports. The article Cameron Vows Action to Halt London Riots probably had the most appeal to logos. It actually quoted exact numbers of police deployed in the field and arrests. Al Jazeera's main strength in its coverage of the London riots was its appeal to pathos. In Panic on the Streets of London, the writer starts with imagery of herself crowded around a little table, watching TV with her family, witnessing the riots firsthand. This introduction really catered to the fears and desperations of the Londoners, who were witnessing the riots. Also, almost all of the sources use strong words when commenting on the politicians. This also catered to the general discontent with the British government. The strongest media biases were towards class and sensationalism. Much of the information was slanted to put the lower class in a negative light. Also, all the sources seemed to focus mainly on the dangerous, chaotic parts of the riots and not on the more calm and less severe parts. The most prevalent rhetorical fallacies were overgeneralization and bandwagon. The sources lacked specific details for the most part, and the videos used clips and information that were almost always identical to each other. They literally were always the same footage over and over and over.
And now we have John Smith II analyzing BBC.
Thanks, guys. BBC, one of the largest broadcasting company stations in all of Europe, had a very difficult time taking a side during the riots. Many articles, for example, Our Courts Acting Out of Character by Clive Coleman, spoke on the side of the rioters, whether that be supporting their cause or assaulting the courts for their rulings. Some articles, on the other hand, such as The Aftermath of the Riots and the Scars They Left Behind, a video by Alan Little, had a clear disgust with the rioters and would point out the many problems with the rioters, from the damage they caused to the amount of goods they stole. Overall, they had no clear position on the topic, as it was so controversial and two-sided that siding with one side would have upset a large opposition. BBC, however, did seem to make many sweeping generalizations, such as exaggerating minority views. Oftentimes, they would state ideas such as most people in the riots were dragged in by those around them, rather than truly having feelings towards the riots for themselves. This is just an exaggeration of the minority view, because if most people felt this way, a vast majority of the English population would have participated. Also, they often answered their questions with circular reasoning and provided little evidence, but would just egg the reader with the question or debate. And through repeating it enough, they hoped to enforce their opinion on the reader. Despite small rhetorical fallacies and biases, BBC was able to convey very fair news to the British public and to the world, in my opinion, which is very difficult in such a heated time.
Well, guys, that's a wrap for tonight, but we're gonna be here at the same time tomorrow night. So be here or you won't be here.